Good day, gentlemen. I've been with my girl for over 6.5 years, and we've built a deeply loving, fulfilling, and peaceful relationship most guys dream of. But the harsh reality is that for 99% of men, this relationship will actually stay a dream until they die one day. Because that would have also happened to me if I hadn't learned what I'm about to share with you in this video. Because the reality is that most men, most people in general, they're playing a game they haven't even been given the rules for. And that's the game of love, the game of relationships. Because just like me, you were never taught how to actually build a great relationship. Instead, you were conditioned by the people around you and by society into the wrong beliefs and the wrong practices when it comes to relationships. Because you probably only had people in your life, or mostly had people in your life, who didn't really have great relationships, right? And the same thing happened to me. But see, me and my girl, we're not here by accident. It's all cause and effect. And I actually recently realized that I never really shared our story. And that's what I want to do in this video. But I also want to want to want to tie four brutally honest lessons into this video for you, so that by the end of this video, you can actually do the same. You can actually create that fulfilling, peaceful, and passionate relationship yourself and get out of those 99% of people who will never actually get there. So, lesson number one is one of the biggest mistakes I see, especially young men, make these days. And to be honest, I think every single one of my clients actually made that mistake before they came to me. And for you to understand this lesson, I need to go back to how me and my girl actually met and how we got together. Because see, back then I was extremely shy, to be honest. And I had still pursued a path of self-growth already, which helped me ask her on 3 dates, and which also helped me to basically not bother anymore when she was busy or ill 3 times in a row. Essentially, I already valued myself and my peace enough to see that pursuing her in that moment would have not led to anything, basically, right? Because she wasn't up for it. And then you're wondering, oh, Benny, but how did you then end up getting with her? Well, a couple months later, for no apparent reason, I became interested in her again, and actually, this time she also was interested in me. And this started a very long period of us actually getting to know each other and really figuring out whether we are aligned to be in a relationship together. And so the first part of this lesson, because there's two parts to it, is if you pursue someone who doesn't want to be pursued, if you choose someone who doesn't want to be chosen, then you can only fail. And what this will lead to, especially for men, I feel like, is you not liking yourself anymore, you doubting yourself, and for some guys, it will destroy them because they are so obsessed with this girl they want to get with, but this girl just isn't choosing them back. The thing is, it's not only bad for your confidence and for your self-trust, it just can't work. Like, you will always fail. And that's what most guys don't get. It's one of those things where one of my clients, for example, Viano, he came to me and he actually just basically got out of a relationship, or they were on a break basically, but it was kind of going in that direction, right? And what he told me was, well, we weren't really, like, she wasn't really sure whether we should get into a relationship, and he kind of convinced her. He was like, yeah, let's just try, let's just give it a shot, we're young and this and that, right? But she wasn't really ready for it, and she let herself be convinced, which of course Viano can't do anything about that. But at the end of the day, that relationship failed, and it never really got anywhere. And it's exactly that thing, right? Yeah, they were together for a couple months, but at the end of the day, Viano kind of wasted his time there. And yes, he was deeply in love with this girl, and yes, he thought she was the one and all of this, right? But it's one of those things where he's like end of his 20s, right? Age-wise. He wasted a year basically on someone who didn't want to be pursued at that very moment. And that set him back quite far in life and quite far with himself. Of course, there's lessons to be learned there, but like, you can grow from that, right? But at the same time, that didn't have to happen. If you had just realized at the start that you shouldn't choose someone who doesn't choose you, that would have never happened. One thing it helped Viano realize is that if someone doesn't choose you, it's probably for the best. It's probably for the best that that relationship just ends as quickly as possible before even becoming a thing, really. Because looking back now, he sees a lot of things in his ex-girlfriend that he didn't really want in a partner. but he was just so in love and thinking she's the one that he was, yeah, head over heels and was like, okay, let's get into a relationship. Let's try this, right? All that stuff, which is okay, right? It's very understandable. Now, here's a second part to this lesson, because there's this thing where so many men these days, they're searching for the one, right? What they don't realize is this whole concept of the one hasn't even existed for more than like 300-400 years. This whole concept, like people a couple hundred years ago didn't even know, like didn't even think about that. Reason why is we had this era of romanticism, and the romanticists, being very romantic, they came up with this concept, you need to find the one, you need to find your soulmate, all this stuff. And we are till this day brainwashed by that, right? It still influences us, and we're still like, oh no, I know she's the one. So many men that I talk to, like, I know she's the one, I know she's the one. Well, how can you know? Like, can you tell the future? No, you can't. You would be a billionaire if you could tell the future, because then you would win the lottery every single time. So you can't tell the future. Fuck off. So here's the thing, right? If you look at the much smarter and much more, in that sense, rational people before the Romanticists, let's take the ancient Greeks, for example, who obviously were like a bit smarter, right? They did much more to progress humanity forward and still influence us in a very good way till this day. So, what did the ancient Greeks think about love? Well, they thought, okay, as partners, you teach each other stuff. You learn from each other. There's not this concept of the one, it's more a growing together. And what the ancient Greeks also realized is one of the things that David Deida put into words so beautifully, which is choose a woman who chooses you, right? And here's the thing, if you combine that with what I'm about to tell you in lesson number 2, the next thing me and my girl did in our story, then not only will you not fail, you can really only win. Now, lesson number 2 will change the entire approach that guys have when they start a relationship. Let me just break this down for you. And this is, again, 2 lessons into one, because the combination of these 2 lessons really make this very powerful. And so, what's the first thing that I did when when my girl showed interest back into me, right? And we were kind of getting to know each other. What I did was I acted as authentic as possible. I didn't hide who I was. And you might look at me now and you'll be like, yeah, Benny, sure, you can do that. You're tall, you're good looking, right? You're in shape, you have money, all that stuff. Yeah. But you do realize that that was 7 years ago, right? When I was acting authentic. And that's the reason why I got here. I get these comments on a daily basis like, oh yeah, you're tall and handsome, it's easy for you. Bro, 7 years ago, you should have seen me. I was skinny, like extremely skinny. I'm talking like 6 foot tall, but like 182, 183 centimeters, right? But like 55 kilograms. I don't know what that's in pounds, but it's fucking skinny. Like really, really fucking skinny. I was broke, of course, right? As everyone is at that age. What else? I had this long, greasy hair. I had a man bun back then, which was cool back then. I will admit that, but it was like long, greasy. I didn't really take care of it. I looked kind of homeless, let's be honest. I had no idea of any sense of like style with clothing, none of that. I grew up in a home I wouldn't really call friendly. I got bullied by like 6 different guys for 8 years leading up to meeting her, all that stuff, right? But here's the thing that I realized back then. If you present yourself as someone who's perfect, people will always realize that you're lying, because nobody is perfect. We have this intuitive sense as humans, which is honestly probably the deepest sense that we have, the deepest like intuitive knowing that we have, because it has ensured our survival up until this point, is realizing what kind of people, or is realizing whether a person is trustworthy or not, right? Because like think about our early ancestors. They had to figure out in an instant, okay, is this guy on this hill next to me that I'm seeing right now, is he trustworthy or not? Should I go on a hunt with this guy or not, right? Should I build a village with this guy or not? All this stuff. And we still have that till this day. My hand just cracked when I put this thing up. Fucking hell, that hurt. Anyway, we have this till this day. This sense of figuring out who's true, who's authentic, who has integrity, and who doesn't. And we see that if someone tries to present themselves as perfect, then that's probably a surefire way to tell or to know that they are lying and that they are actually very insecure about who they are. See, I understood back then that it's not about presenting myself as perfect, but that it's about figuring out whether she fits into my life and whether I fit into her life, of course, whether we are aligned, like I said earlier, to be in a relationship together, right? And actually, there's this term that I keep coming back to because I think it's such a great analogy. And this perfectly describes why it's not only good for yourself essentially to present yourself as authentic, because otherwise you have this cognitive dissonance and you present yourself as someone who you're not, and then you're kind of internally struggling with yourself, like, who even am I, like identity crisis kind of thing, right? But also, not just are people not attracted to people who present themselves as perfect, people are attracted to people's edges, to people's imperfections, to people's insecurities. Now let me tell you why, because this might sound crazy. There's this term that I just mentioned, right? There's this term which is called Teflon men. Let me explain this. Dr. Robert Glover came up with this, the guy who wrote No More Mr. Nice Guy, fantastic book. And at the end of the day, what he means with Teflon men is like the Teflon pan, right? The cooking pan that you cook in that nothing sticks to, right? Nothing can stick to that pan. Just like nothing can stick to a man who presents himself as perfect. He's round. He's like perfectly flat. Like there's no nooks, no crannies, no edges, nothing. Nothing for anyone to hold on to, e.g., to be attracted to. Right? Why are so many women attracted to the bad guy? Well, simply because he shows who he actually is. Yes, he's a dick. Yes, he's an asshole. But he actually admits that. And that makes him very authentic, makes him very grounded, makes him very trustworthy at the end of the day, because he's not afraid to hide those imperfections or weaknesses or whatever you want to call them. And here's the thing. If you hide your weaknesses, they actually stay weaknesses. But the moment you show a weakness, people can see, oh, this guy is strong enough to admit his weaknesses. It actually turns into a strength. And by the way, this is the same reason why so many men struggle to make friends when they're adults, right? I moved to a different country a couple months ago and I have made fantastic friends here. Why? Because I show who I truly am. And you know what? This keeps the people that you don't want in your life, it keeps them out of your life automatically. And it also pulls the people into your life who you want in your life. But if you're trying to put on some mask, that never works, right? There's this quote, I forgot who said it, but the persona, right? If you put on a persona, if you put on a mask, the persona can only receive praise. It can't receive love. Something along those lines. Because if you act like someone you're not, you can only really get praise for acting like this, for like your ability to act. If someone gives you a compliment, you can't take that compliment to heart. Like you can't feel that compliment because it isn't a genuine compliment about you. It's a compliment about your acting abilities, right? And this is where part 2 of this lesson comes in, and this ties everything together and makes it so much more powerful. Because, well, back then, right, when I got to know my girl, all the friends I had back then, they all rushed into relationships. They all got to know someone, they fell in love, right? They kissed, whatever, and they got into a relationship right away. And they told me to do the same thing. And I didn't. And I'm not saying that what my friends did was wrong, but none of them, not a single one of them, is still in the relationship he was in when me and my girl got together. Yet me and my girl are still together. There is a linear causality, I guess. I'm German, by the way, right? Sometimes I don't know the right word. I don't know if it's like correlation is probably a better word. Causality is maybe a bit too like specific. Here's the thing: there is a linear. What did I just say? A connection. Let's just go. Fucking hell. There's just a linear connection between how much you take your time with getting into a relationship and how long that relationship lasts. And of course, you don't need to take 10 years time and then be together 10 years. I'm just saying, like, there's a certain threshold, a couple months or maybe like half a year or whatever. This is about how long me and my girl actually took to really get to know each other before we even kissed for the first time, by the way. And I'm not religious or anything. I'm not saying this for religious reasons. I'm just saying this because that has actually led me to the relationship that I'm in these days, which is awesome, which most guys want. Anyway, if you take your time like that, what you can do in that time is you can actually show who you truly are. And you can give this person you're getting to know a chance to show who they truly are. And then you can actually figure out, both emotionally and rationally and spiritually or whatever, whether you actually fit together, whether you're actually aligned to be in a relationship together. And a prime example of this is my client Deacon, right, who also came to me similarly to Viano, actually, when he got out of a relationship, right? She broke up with him and eventually he realized this was actually a good thing because really there were so many things within that relationship and with her that he didn't really want. And throughout our time working together, he actually got to know a new girl. And you know what? They took their fucking time. They really took their time for months without even kissing, without even just getting to know each other, right? No sex, no nothing, just getting to know each other. And what Deacon did as well in that time is he showed all the edges he has. He showed who he truly was. And she actually did the same thing, which of course was awesome for him to see that, right? And he even went as far as literally telling her like that he's literally working with me with this mentorship thing to actually become the man who can lead a relationship to peace and trust and fulfillment and passion. And of course that could have backfired, right? That could have gone in the wrong direction. She could have been like, what? Like you're so insecure when it comes to relationships that you need to learn from a mentor? Like, that's weird, right? But then she wouldn't have been the woman that he should spend his life with, right? But she was actually like, wow, that's awesome. Like, to have the humility to admit that you need to learn in this area because nobody ever taught you, that's awesome. That was her reaction. And you can imagine, like, they're in a relationship together now, and it's fucking great, right? Because they simply took their time and because they both showed who they truly were. And just realize this, to round this off, people are not attracted to perfect people. People are attracted to people who confidently talk about their insecurities, shortcomings, edges, everything. That's what people are attracted to because they can hold on to it. If something is super smooth, like a person is super smooth, that Teflon man, right? You can't hold on to that. You have to have some kind of edge, some kind of insecurity, whatever that you show authentically and confidently for people to be like, wow, this is a person who actually knows himself. This is a person that I actually want to be around. This is good energy. And it takes time to show that. And it takes time to figure out whether this person that you're getting to know actually likes that. In this modern like age of just going on a bunch of random dates and like 2 dates after that you're sleeping with each other. Like, I'm not saying that's bad, right? I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but that's not gonna help you get into a good relationship. I'm not the kind of guy who's like, yeah, you shouldn't sleep around, whatever. I personally haven't done it simply because I'm in a long-term relationship, right? But it's one of those things where sure, do it if it helps you become more confident, if it helps you actually, it won't help you fill any holes, but if it helps you become more confident within yourself, it helps you be more comfortable around women to go on a bunch of dates, sure, do that. But it won't lead to you actually building a great relationship. For that, you need to take your fucking time. Oh, and by the way, I recently put together a secret video for you where I explain the 3-step framework that I take all my clients through. So if you're interested in that, it's free. You don't have to put in your email or any of that bullshit. It's just free. There's a link in the description. Click that if you're interested and go watch it. But anyway, I know these first 2 lessons were very deep and very long and maybe a bit draining, but here's the thing. I want to get into lesson number 3 because eventually in my relationship, the honeymoon phase ended, right? We got into the relationship, but then let's skip that whole phase of the honeymoon phase because that's easy. You don't need any advice for it. You have these obsessive feelings about each other. It's great, butterflies, everything, cool. Then the honeymoon phase ends. And this is where most people say relationships get worse over time, relationships like whatever. It's just this whole belief these days that relationships over time simply get worse. Why would that be the case? Like, please explain that to me. Because, for example, one of the things that I'm trying to get better at right now is surfing. Would I get worse at surfing the longer I do it? Of course not. Right? But people say, oh, relationships get worse over time. But why would a relationship get worse over time if I'm getting to know this person better, if I'm figuring out more how to meet this person's needs and they're figuring out more how to meet my needs, right? All these things, like, why would it get worse if you get more practice, more time to get to know each other, more time to understand each other? My relationship, till this day, almost 7 years in, it gets better by the day, by the week, by the month, by the year, everything. It just continues to get better. And the only reason why is because I don't buy into this whole notion that relationships and excitement and attraction is only based on novelty and on getting to know new people. That's what most people actually secretly think, right? They think relationships, they're great because of novelty. What they don't realize is that there's a whole different great out there. Novelty grade is one grade, and then there's a whole different grade out there that they have never even seen. Let me tell you about that. Look, man, novelty is great. The excitement you get from it is great, especially sexually, right? It's so exciting. This is why hookup sex is so popular these days, right? Hookup culture, all this thing. And hookup sex might be different than relationship sex. I don't know. I haven't tried it. I couldn't tell you, right? But at the end of the day, relationships, yes, they will go through phases. They will go through dips, especially sexually, like attraction-wise. That will happen, especially after the honeymoon phase, right? But then most people think, oh, I'm just not sexually attracted to this person anymore. I'm just like, whatever. We're just not made to have sex anymore or whatever. Or sex just goes down in relationships. Well, here's the thing, man. This doesn't happen because the honeymoon phase is over. This doesn't happen because novelty isn't there anymore. This happens because the differences, this arm rest keeps sliding down, very annoying. But anyway, this happens because the differences that initially attracted you to her and her to you are kind of fading away. You're kind of becoming the same person. People call this polarity, right? And it's basically the polarity between you and between her, between masculine and feminine, which the man doesn't always have to be in the masculine role, the woman doesn't always have to be in the feminine role, but still, right, you have to kind of have those polar opposites, like magnets, like complementary opposites that attract each other. And over time in relationships, what often happens, especially with people who are not fully secure in themselves yet, who don't fully know who they are, or simply aren't really comfortable, like fully comfortable in their own skin yet, what often happens is you rub off on each other because you're afraid of being different. You're afraid of being different from your girl, and so you all rub off on each other, and you try to be more like her, and she tries to be more like you, and then you adopt the same hobbies, and you adopt the same whatever, and you adopt the same language, and all of that. And that's not to say that that's bad, right? But what I'm trying to say is, the less differences you have, the more you become the same person, essentially, the more your relationship will feel like a friendship instead of like an exciting, attractive relationship where sexual desire and sexual intimacy can thrive. And I'll be honest, this happened to me and my girl as well. We very much became like each other, and that polarity, that sexual attraction faded more and more until we realized this and understood this and started embracing our differences more and more again, and also worked on the underlying cause, which was that fear of being different from each other, right? Because we think, oh, if I'm different from my partner, they will leave me. If I'm different from them, they will not like me, they will not love me anymore, which isn't true. They love you for actually being different. That's why they were attracted to you in the first place. So many people, they get into a relationship, and after years their partner tells them, man, I just want the old you back. I just want the old you, that the version of you that I actually initially was attracted to. I want that back. That was the version that was so very different from her. That was the version that was so different from your partner. Yet you think, oh, I need to become the same person as them for them to actually love me. That's a false narrative, false belief. And the moment me and my girl started embracing our differences again more and more, and we're still doing this till this day, polarity and that attraction came back more and more. Here's the thing. One of the things that I learned from this, I think Swedish or Belgian. Yeah, I think she's from Belgium. Belgian psychologist and like kind of relationship scientist, I guess, Esther Perel, is that sexual desire can only really thrive in the space between you and them. Meaning, the smaller that space is, the more you are similar to each other. I love this analogy because it's really practical. The more you are similar to each other, the less sexual desire there is. This is why you probably don't feel a lot of sexual desire for your friends, because you're so very similar to them, right? There's so many, you connect on your similarities. And with a partner, you connect on your differences. That's why that polarity and that sexual attraction is there. And then the second thing that I learned from Esther Perel is that it really comes down to exploring that space between each other. And then people might say, oh, but I mean, I've been with my partner for a couple of years now. There's not really a lot to explore about them. Like, I don't know. There's not really a lot to, like, I just know them already, you know? Like, what is there to explore? I don't know about you, man, but I've been with my girl for almost 7 years, and she's not the same person she was 7 years ago. She's not the same person she was a week ago. And I am not the same person I was 7 years ago, or a week ago, or a month ago, or a year ago either. We keep evolving, we keep changing, we keep becoming different people. And that's where that excitement can come from. Because there's constantly, like, I mean this, every day there's new things my girl learns and new things I learn. And we continue evolving, we continue becoming new people, which we can then explore, which is where that desire can come from. This fucking armrest, man. And that's exactly that. We continue evolving, and we continue exploring each other in that way. Sexually, same thing. We continue evolving sexually. We continue growing sexually. We continue exploring our own desires and whatever else sexually, but also each other's desires sexually. And I think this is a beautiful journey that everyone can go through together. But most people just think, oh no, I know my partner. I know them so well, whatever. No, you don't. They're a different person than they were yesterday. And to round this off, I want to bring a couple things together here. There's this quote by the kind of modern philosopher Alan Watts, which is something along the lines of, you have no obligation to be the same person you were yesterday. And this is exactly that. Because what's holding you back from actually pursuing this, what's holding your girl back from actually pursuing this more and more, and from actually being different to you, is that fear of being different. That fear is irrational, as most fears are. It's irrational. It isn't real. It's just a fear. It's just a feeling. You will not be rejected just because you're different. Actually, you will probably, most likely, especially in a relationship where you want to have a bit of a sexual, like a bit of a thriving sex life, you will not be rejected. You will actually be more loved in that sense, yeah, and more. Your partner will feel more pulled towards you. I don't know, man. My words, like words, don't come out of my mouth easily today. I don't know what's happening. Anyway, you get the point. You are under no. That's the quote. You are under no obligation to be the same person you were yesterday. Understand that, and understand that you continuing to evolve, even if that means that you lose your partner because you become completely different people. That's okay. You would have become that person anyway. You would have wanted to become that person anyway. And if you need to change yourself to stay in a relationship, then that relationship is not serving you. Because as the ancient Greeks also said, and as I also believe, even before I read this, relationships aren't there to kind of box you in. Relationships are there to help you become more of yourself. And if a relationship isn't serving that purpose for you, if it isn't helping you become more yourself, if it's pushing you away from who you truly want to be, then you shouldn't be in that relationship in the first place. Okay, one more thing that I just thought of, because I recently watched this movie called Bleed for This, which is a movie about the boxer Vinny Paz, right, who was like a great boxer a couple decades ago. And one of the things that the actor Miles Teller plays Vinny Paz in that movie, one of the things that he says at the end of that movie is, if you just do what they tell you can't, then it's done. People tell you can't keep up sexual desire in long-term relationships. People tell you can't keep up that polarity, that attraction, that like excitement, like enthusiasm about each other. People tell you can't keep that up. But if you just do it, even though people tell you can't, then it's done. I think that line is so powerful. If you just do what they tell you can't, then it's done. It's done. It's finished. And this brings me to the most important lesson in this whole video. Lesson number 4. Because I always keep the most important lessons, most valuable insights until the end of these videos for guys like you, as a reward for you putting in all this time, taking notes, and just being present here and actually learning how to build a great relationship. Because I really honor that, to be honest. It's one of those things that I truly think will push humanity forward. And so I want to give those lessons to you. And so lesson number 4 is basically about the biggest question I had at the early stages of my relationship, which was, will I ever be the man who is capable of building the relationship I truly want? Because as you can maybe imagine from everything I told you about earlier, how I was so skinny and got bullied and kind of looked like a girl, to be honest, with my long hair. All those things, I carried a lot of baggage inside of myself. And that, of course, was reflected in my relationship, right? And was reflected in things like my anxious attachment style, my like deep-rooted anxiety that made me believe back then that she was cheating on me or that she would leave me any day when there were actually no red flags, like zero. I mean this, 0 red flags. There was nothing. It was just she didn't text me back for 2 hours because she was working, for example. And then I thought, oh fuck, she's probably cheating on me, and I'll get this text from someone like, oh yeah, bro, stop texting her, she's busy, like that kind of stuff, right? And that kept me up at life. It kept me up at life. What the fuck? Kept me up at night. Like, that wouldn't let me fall asleep. Even, and this is the crazy part, even if I was sleeping in the same bed as her, I would sometimes think, yeah, she's gonna sneak out at night while I'm asleep and cheat on me. Like, literally to this level. Because I have been betrayed by people in my life, right? And because that was kind of the pattern that I saw, so I thought she would do that as well. Anyway, that's one thing. Other things are my doubts and my, yeah, I guess doubts about whether her sex drive will ever come back after she got off birth control, which was early in our relationship as well. She got off birth control, which is fantastic. Birth control is not good, right? I shouldn't even have to say this. She got off it, and her hormone levels went completely crazy. She didn't get her period for like 8-9 months, something like that. She literally didn't get her period. That, of course, affected her sex drive, all of that. And I was like, will this ever come back, right? All my doubts about that. Or me trying to navigate building a business, working like 70 plus hours a week, balancing that with a relationship, and my fear of saying no to her because I had to work, all that stuff, right? All that stuff was reflected in my relationship, and all that stuff made me question, will I ever be the man who is capable of building the relationship and leading the relationship I truly want? I know I'm not the only one who asked himself that question, because like literally every single one of the guys who comes to me for mentorship, they all ask themselves that question. That's why they literally come to me, essentially. That's what it boils down to. And as men, we can achieve so much in life. We can do so much in life. We can have so many great achievements. We can build businesses. We can build a great body. We can whatever else, right? But we are deeply afraid that we won't get to share those achievements with anyone. We have this deep underlying sense that if I don't get to share this with anyone, it is all meaningless. And I actually kind of believe that that's true. I think we need a witness to our lives. I think we need someone who we can go through life with together and who we can share all this with. Right? As was said in the movie Into the Wild, which is actually a true story, happiness isn't... Sorry, what was it? Happiness is only real when it's shared. That's it. Happiness is only real when it's shared. And I believe that's so true. And I don't need to tell you that it takes work to become that man. You already know that. But I want to tell you one of the things that only very few men, I believe, can actually tell you. It's worth it. It is so deeply worth it to become that man and to build that relationship. Because not only did I achieve so much while I was in my relationship, literally building businesses, moving to different countries, all that stuff. Not only did I achieve all those things, but I wouldn't even be close to the man that I am today without my girl and without this relationship, without the challenges we face together, without all the, I guess, like honestly, dark nights of the soul that I sometimes went through throughout this relationship. I'm not telling you to stay in a toxic relationship. Don't let your ego think that. Don't let your insecurities think that. I'm not telling you to stay in a toxic relationship. I'm telling you that it is worth it to do the work, to figure out a way to stay with an awesome woman, to have that trust, to have that patience, to not be in your head where you're basically, your mind is always trying to predict and protect, right? It's trying to predict the future and it's trying to protect you from pain, from hurt. That's going to lead you down the wrong path. Lean into your heart, which is trust and patience. That's where you actually get further. Trust and patience. And the simple truth is, man, we as men, we are motivated by love. We are motivated by beauty. We are motivated by a woman trusting us so entirely. That's what motivates us. That's what drives us. Let it drive you like it drove all the men that Napoleon Hill talks about in Think and Grow Rich, where around 100 years ago, he went around the world and basically interviewed the 500 most influential, most successful, most powerful men around the world. Let it drive you like the entrepreneur Alex Hormozy, who lost everything in his life while he was together with his back then still girlfriend, now wife, Layla, and told her, hey, I'm a fuck up right now. I can understand if you walk away. There's no hard feelings. I'm a fuck up. I'm a sinking ship. And she just told him, Alex, I would sleep with you under a bridge if it came to it. If you have a woman like that by your side, holy shit, man, don't give that up. And let it drive you like it drove Odysseus to get back to Ithaca after the Trojan Wars. That 10-year crazy journey he went on. It wasn't to get back to his people, being the king again, none of that. What drove him was to get back to his family, back to his wife. Let it drive you like that. Let love, let beauty, let someone trusting you and surrendering to you, let that drive you. Let that drive you to greatness. And one last bonus insight. I am well aware that this is a momentary capture of my story and her story and our story together. And we are both well aware that stories evolve and that our story might part one day. And not just are we aware of that, we're actually okay with it. And this is what makes our relationship so strong and so fulfilling. And like I mentioned earlier, I made this secret video recently where I break down the exact 3-pillar framework I used to not only improve my relationship and grow it to this point where it's at today, but also help hundreds of men in my mentorship do the same thing. If you're interested in that, click the link in the description. It's free. I'm giving it to you for free. You don't need to put in your email or any of that stuff. Just go watch it. It's free. Go do that right now if you're interested. Thanks for listening in. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.